Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right, Paul Feith here, where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, leading from the heart, and making a difference in our communities. Excited about today's episode. I have Bob Kopach. Did I pronounce Kopach right?
Yes.
I did. Okay. He is the founder and executive director of the Eco-Friendly Mobile Farm Stand Project. Wanted to get that out. It's a nonprofit that actually donates electric mobile farm stands to urban farmers focused on residents suffering from food insecurity. That's a mouthful. So, Bob, welcome to the show, and I'd love to hear more about this project and what led you on this journey.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate you having me on. And the journey started actually a few years ago. Actually, back in the early 2000s, I was working for an entrepreneur that was involved in an electric vehicle business. Believe it or not, what's happening now was also happening in the early 2000s when it came to the electric vehicles. There was a huge upswell of let's get this done. Obviously, back then it didn't happen. So we're kind of doing it again. But I was introduced to the idea of low-speed electric vehicles, neighborhood electric vehicles at that time. And one of the ideas I had, because I was very well aware, based in my work in corporate social responsibility, the idea of food insecurity. And I thought, why can't we provide these vehicles to urban farmers to serve those suffering from food insecurity? And it was more of a business standpoint that eventually the financial crisis happened and everything. People wanted them, could not afford them. So fast forward to, like 2018, 2019, the problem still was there. Nothing was really getting better. And
Well, let's talk about that for just a second. The problem. What was the problem?
Well, food insecurity.
Mm-hmm. But particularly in certain areas, correct?
Particularly in low to middle income neighborhoods experiencing food insecurity. Grocery stores were shutting down back then, abandoning neighborhoods. It was taking many years to even try to get a grocery store. And this wonderful group of people, these urban farmers, passionate, dedicated, hardworking people, would come together in neighborhoods and communities to serve fresh fruit and vegetables to those without access. And so the problem persisted way back then in the early 2000s and, probably even before then. So I knew I had the knowledge of what these vehicles can do. So I'm like, instead of trying to sell these vehicles, let's put together an organization that will donate the vehicles. So that's what we did. And right now, we're serving various communities around the country, particularly here in Chicago, providing them the vehicles. But what's happened is, like I said, nothing really has changed in 24 years. You still have the low to middle income neighborhoods being abandoned by corporate grocery stores. You've got, obviously now, and even back then, the idea of climate change was happening. And it's, even more prevalent now. And then the one thing that I think has kind of taken the back seat to climate change, or the idea of climate change, environmental sustainability, is air pollution. There's a lot of bad stuff coming out of a tailpipe that obviously is part of climate change, but also you're breathing these particulates in and chemicals in, and disproportionately affecting low to middle income neighborhoods.
Hence the electric vehicle.
Pardon?
Hence the electric vehicle.
Yeah. So if you've got this food insecurity issue, you've got the people that want to help them, why not go from A to B without having to do anything with air pollution? no emissions, no gasoline. And so we're not talking about huge stretches to make an impact either. It's literally, there could be a senior living facility 3 or 4 blocks away from an urban farm where those seniors can't get to the urban farm. So this vehicle could go and take it to them, which happens a lot in Chicago. They're focused, our Garfield Park one is particularly focused on senior living facilities.
Oh, okay. So what kind of impact are we looking at in some of these areas where you already have the eco-friendly mobile farm stand?
Well, take like Gary, for example, has been averaging our Gary farm, Faith Farm and Orchards down there, which is our very first project. They have been averaging delivering over 3,000 pounds of vegetables each growing season, which could be like June through October, to those in need. And that's delivering fresh, freshly grown right out of the ground fruit and vegetables. They also, as everyone does, they look at it as programs as food as medicine also, to be able to educate those that are coming up to the farm stand on the health benefits and even the recipes. Like in Gary, for example, there's a QR code on the side that they can click, and it goes to a site that actually Purdue University has set up to teach them how to prepare the vegetables in a very healthy way.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. I also hear some of those stats from food banks, where they say they deliver X amount of pounds or X thousand pounds of food per day. But I'm wondering if you have any statistics beyond that. One argument can be made for like the food banks is, are they serving the right kinds of foods? Are they serving foods that are going to waste because it's not in their diet, or it's not in their culture, for example. Mm-hmm. So do you have any stats on that, or is it more like they pick the foods that they want to?
Well, I mean, these are vegetables, so there's no other type of food, box food, canned food, or anything that's part of this. This is truly giving the urban farmer a tool to extend the reach with what they have to offer from their garden. So I don't have stats as per se in terms of
but these are strictly fruits and vegetables, though.
Absolutely, because you're talking about an urban farmer. You're talking about the hoop farms that are around that are starting in March, are starting to grow. So it's all fresh. It's all fresh right from there.
Right. Well, you really have to feel good about what you're doing and being able to provide these vehicles and it's trying to think of another word other than vehicle. Like you have a vehicle to provide vehicles, right? Through this donation program.
Yeah. And the idea of a mobile farm stand is nothing new. There's wonderful programs out there that are using buses and vans and those types of things.
Okay.
We just happen to be a little bit more hyper local to a point where we don't have to worry about emissions and spending money on gasoline. So if you're spending $5 on a gallon of gasoline, if you're not doing that with our vehicles, what can that $5 go to? And then if you extrapolate it out for the whole year, many of the organizations that we've aligned with tell the story how those who run the farm use their own vehicles and their own money to buy the gasoline to deliver the fruit and vegetables. You also hear that volunteers are doing the same. That volunteers will say, let's use my car. I'll do it today. So they appreciate the fact that, that does not have to happen. The vehicles carry anywhere between 250 to 400 pounds.
Oh, wow.
They can go, nobody is going probably more than 4 miles. So to make an impact from their farm. And even within a couple blocks, there might be people that can't even get to the farm, even if they live a couple blocks away. Or the idea of going to the farm and carrying, 4 or 5 pounds of vegetables 3 or 4 blocks, that doesn't
Yeah.
work for them either. So it's very hyper local, and we're kind of just creating this network of kind of a micro transportation network, electrified network that is able to serve small areas and small communities, because the grocery stores are slow to come. I mean, in today, the Chicago Sun-Times headlines is about the grocery stores that are not coming to Chicago fast enough. There's places that have not seen a grocery store in 5 years or more, and they're still not there. We're working with an organization in Michigan, and it's taken 14 years for them to finally get like a food co-op in their neighborhood.
14 years.
Yeah. So, we're there to provide a tool to help. And if we can go from A to B without polluting the air, in this day and age when, the environment and climate change is so drastic, the news you hear is so drastic, we feel good about that. And we don't go away after we donate. We like to study what happens. Everything from, like I said, in terms of the number of people served, the reach in terms of the expansion of reach for these farms, the CO2 that's not being emitted. About a pound of CO2 comes out of a gas tailpipe for every mile. So, we're not doing that. So we like to collect that data. We work with them on routing for the most efficient routing. The vehicles themselves plug into a standard outlet. These are low-speed electric vehicles. These are not Teslas you need a charger. The charger's on board. They plug into a 110 outlet with a 15 to 20 amp circuit. So you plug them in overnight, and then you take them out the next day. And like I said, they're not going that far. They could go about 20 to 25 miles on a charge. They're programmed to only go 20 to 25 miles per hour. And
Pretty fast in the city when you think about it,
well, they can do that. They're allowed on streets of only allowed on streets of posted speed limits of 35 miles per hour or less.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a federally mandated category of vehicle to be street legal. In fact, they come with a VIN number. The organization needs to register, insure, plate the vehicle as according to their municipal laws. But it's like I said, it's very hyper local, and people are just going around in the neighborhood and getting their fresh fruit and vegetables to those who need it the most.
And these, I guess, they have a word for the urban deserts, I guess, or food deserts.
Yeah, one of the terms is food desert, food apartheid, food insecurity. So depends on how you kind of want to look at it in terms of the cause and effects on the terminology.
Right. Well, it's cool that you're still after the donation, you're still looking at them, trying to get stats, trying to see the impact that's being made, which I think is important.
That's very, very important, because we want to adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
If we need to, in terms of our project and our programs, and to learn. I mean, someone else may have a great idea. There's one that is using the vehicle to, in the springtime, deliver tomato plants to homeowners to grow tomatoes in their own backyard and teach them how to do it and show them how to plant it. So that, that's just an offshoot of what the project's all about.
Nice.
Many are using it too they're all using it as a marketing tool. Because if you see our vehicles, what we do is when we get funding, a part of the funding goes to the graphics in terms of the design and printing and applications on the vehicle to make the vehicle their own and make it part of the neighborhood. We always try to work with local artists to do the design, to truly bring it home, and that's their neighborhood, and they can be proud of it. Also with the funding, part of the funding also goes towards working with trade organizations that teach underprivileged young adults the trades. In our case, we use those who are training in carpentry. And what they do is the base vehicle will arrive. They actually then build the vehicle into a farm stand, putting the wooden flatbed in and all that good stuff to really make it look like a farm stand. So for the urban farmer, in addition to be utilitarian, that it's actually delivering the fresh fruit and vegetables, it's delivering the fresh fruit and vegetables to those in need. They also, most are nonprofits, but they still have to generate revenue, and they want people buying from them. So, it's a mobile marketing tool too. They see that, that their farm is being great to the community, doing something good for the community. I tell a lot of them, I said, if you look at transit advertising in the city of Chicago, there's people that are spending $4,000 a month to be on the side of a bus.
Yep.
So, you've got this free mobile advertising driving around, telling people of the good things that you're doing. And
sure, you're in the community and you're promoting your farm. So it is a great promotional tool. Bob, what is your vision for this company? Where do you see it in the next 10 years?
Well, I think it's just continuing to grow the network in different markets around the country. I mean, if you look at the USDA food insecurity map, the problem exists everywhere. So as urban farmers continue to be those that are working so hard to try to alleviate the situation as much as they can, we're there for them. So, we're looking at projects. Projects in Los Angeles. There's one that's starting up. In addition to Seattle and Detroit, and we just got word in Athens, Georgia, that they would like a project. So word is starting to spread from the urban farming community that they're reaching out to us to see how the projects work and whether it's feasible. Sometimes it's not feasible because either the distance they have to go or the streets that have to be driven on, it isn't quite right for them. So we can't work with that. But for the most part, the people that are reaching out understand the parameters of this type of vehicle and whether it can work for them. So we're working. Las Vegas is another one that we're working on. And the other thing I should mention is there's a full net zero sustainability opportunity here. In our Gary farm, it's actually the solar panels on the church. The farm is part of a church, 30 panels system. The vehicle charges off of that. So if it's either being charged directly from the batteries or there's just the net zero in terms of the amount of solar power going back out to the grid, that's quite feasible. In Los Angeles, we're looking at using solar sheds to house the vehicle. So on any given day, it could be sitting there being charged, and the next day it's in use. So a lot of imagination's being used with that in terms of sustainability.
Net neutrality, yeah. I mean, that's a great goal. I'm sure a lot of people love hearing that too. And you're not doing it through purchasing offsets. You're doing it through actually reducing your carbon footprint by, one, using electric powered vehicle, and two, powering that charge with solar industry. That's very good. Well, Bob, because this is a podcast about leaders for leaders, I'm wondering if you had any particular challenges as a leader with this organization that you've overcome that you could share with us.
Well, I think just the realization of when you decide, I want to start a nonprofit and all that comes with that, before you could even do anything, applying for the 501c3 and getting word out about requesting funding, getting that first project up and running and making sure that it is doing what you intended to do before you start others. So you have that model to work from. So it's been a lot of just patience and understanding that, it's not going to happen overnight, but when you see it happening, you feel good about it, and want to do better. And now, word of mouth is happening. Even from the funding standpoint, we had Linda and Mike Musselum were actually, Mike grew up in Gary, Indiana, went off eventually to be the CEO of a medical device company in California. And they funded the very first vehicle in Gary they wanted to support, where he grew up. And God bless them. That was kind of the start of it. We had our first one. And since then, they've funded 2 additional vehicles in the Chicago area. And most recently, Navistar, we were awarded funding for they have a program to fund organizations for environmental initiatives. So we received funding from Navistar, and we'll be putting probably 3 vehicles. One right now is getting ready to go in Englewood. Another one is being built for back of the yards, and another one is TBD. So we're very, very thankful for their funding. We're and like I said, with Linda and Mike Musselum, they got it off the ground. They saw something there. They provided the funding, and that's the model we've been able to use now throughout the country.
Wow. Could you share with us, if anybody's interested in donating out there, could you share with us maybe like a price range for these vehicles to be donated?
So what happens is we call it a vehicle adoption.
Okay.
And so a organization, a corporation, private grants, private funding could adopt a vehicle for life. It's one time. It's a range of $16,850 to $18,500, and that provides the farm with a electric farm stand. Like I said, for life. We don't go back every year and ask for funding. But part of that funding, as I mentioned, goes towards the base vehicle. It goes towards the build out of the vehicle. So some of that funding is actually going to another nonprofit that's helping young adults learn the trades, carpentry. And then there's a portion of that will also go towards the graphics production and the hiring of a graphic artist in that neighborhood to actually do it. So to design it. So
I love that you keep that in the community.
Oh, that's what it's all about. I mean, they've got to be proud of what they're building, what they're designing, and what they're using. It's got to be part of the community because that's the passion they have. You go to these neighborhoods and it's all about community. They don't have a grocery store. So they're banding together to make sure everyone gets fresh fruit and vegetables.
I have to ask this because I'm always interested in operations of a nonprofit. I'm not seeing the revenue model just yet, unless some of that goes to pay salaries, or is this an all volunteer run organization? How's that work?
It's all volunteer. It's all volunteer. The vast majority, the vast majority goes to getting vehicles in place.
Okay, keeping those costs down.
Left over, there's the administrative cost of what we can do with our website, insurance, those types of things. But for the most part, it's been word of mouth. We were able to get an intern this year from Columbia College.
Nice.
To help us out with things and teach me a lot about social media and even when to press go and all these things. So that's all those things are needed. So we'll eventually probably get there a little bit more sophisticated in terms of our marketing. But right now it comes down to the fact that, when we show a photograph or a video of it in action, people reach out and say, how can I get one? And then we start knocking on doors for funding to get funding to put a vehicle in place.
Yeah, it sounds very grassroots, actually, but very effective. How long has the company been around?
We started in 2019.
Okay.
And I'm still shocked that all the paperwork we did for the 501c3 through the federal government somehow during COVID got through, and we got it. So that's when we knew, that's when we really started, get up and running once that came out. So I honestly thought there'd be a huge delay, and we got lucky during COVID that
Yeah.
able to.
We've all heard horror stories with people trying to get those and delays, and especially during COVID. So yeah, I think you did get lucky there.
We got very, very, very lucky. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us with, I didn't realize there was so many of these food deserts just in our local Chicagoland area.
Oh, I could go. We could have a whole nother hour of podcast telling you about, the effect of when the grocery stores move out of the neighborhood, the effect it has, and creating that. So no, it's all. If you ever have a chance, USDA has the food insecurity map. You can take a look at that.
Ooh, we'll be sure to plug that on the that link on the podcast site.
That's completely for the United States, but if you wanted to look at Chicago,
drill in. Cool. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that information with us. Any parting thoughts for our listeners?
I mean, if you're in this environment of philanthropy and doing good for the community, keep at it and talk. I mean, I'm open to listening and talking to anyone about specifically, what we're doing and what they're trying to do at the same time that kind of matches the whole idea of food insecurity to just in general starting up a 501c3. So I think everyone should talk. I think that's the only way. If people work in silos, I don't think new ideas happen. I think those silos need to break up and look at the nobodies and the somebodies. You have to talk to. There's a lot of somebodies out there that you could try to talk to. And there's a lot of nobodies out there that are probably have some really good ideas that just because they're nobodies. And I say that facetiously, just in terms of, listen to everyone. If you have the chance, listen and talk to everyone, regardless of their status, from in philanthropy or food or whatever. Talk to everyone. There's ideas out there.
Absolutely. Well, we wholeheartedly agree with that. It's why we do these podcasts. It's why we do webinars. And it's why we do our annual mixer of nonprofit leaders, which I hope to see you at in June. We try to do one every year. This is our second annual one. I also forgot to mention this podcast sponsor is Paul Gregory Media, which is a certified B Corporation. To learn about what Paul Gregory Media does and what a certified B Corporation is, visit paulgregorymedia.com. Bob, thank you again.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on here. Till next time, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.